for May 1st, 2024. Now here's Kimberly Gogan with the Office of the Guardian. Hey, Kim.
Happy May Day.
Happy May Day. Yeah.
It's a holiday in most of the world.
Yeah.
People hopefully have the day off, so I hope they're enjoying their day off. Not like we have a day off, but if we did.
That'd be nice.
So, yeah, it's getting interesting out there right now.
Okay.
So we've had several people come and go here locally in the last 48 hours. And a lot of phone calls being made to different people trying to gain my support for the deep state. They would like me to comply, normal thing that happens constantly. Mm-hmm. So I thought it was a good idea to talk a little bit about why that can never happen.
Okay.
Now, we've spent the last several years, regardless of the deep state itself and the humans that are walking the earth, we've spent a lot of time. I mean, we have about 1,500 pages of operational notes, and it's an all day long, every day, 10 to 15 hours a day, sometimes half the night thing that we've been doing for a long time. And this has more to do with the war from the light forces against the dark forces. Mm-hmm. And initially, as I've told you before, so it's important sometimes to kind of put this all together for you. So initially, it was to restore balance so we could go into a neutral age, which was going to happen whether we as human beings liked it or not.
Right.
So that's good side, bad side. It doesn't really matter. That was always, it was time. It was that time when time existed for us to go into a neutral age and restore balance throughout the multiverse. Now, about a year ago, it became apparent that wasn't going to happen. And not only the humans did not want to accept balance of power on the planet, but there were a lot of other dark forces behind them at the time that also did not want balance. And there was a lot of checks and balances and all kinds of things put in place so that wouldn't happen from the dark forces. And because of those checks and balances, they were trying very, very hard not to allow for us to go into a neutral age. That when they were around, that was their modus operandi. They spent an awful lot of time trying to make sure that they stayed in power and could eventually take over the entire light side of the universe. And this is the fight. This is the real fight. It wasn't for control of planet Earth. It wasn't for power. Sure, that was part of it because we were one of the last gateways with which they could utilize to do so and to enter this side of the multiverse. There were a lot of parasites and energetic pulls on Earth and on people and throughout the multiverse that kept them alive. Mm-hmm. Because they are all parasitic races, which means they don't generate their own energy, they don't generate their own essence and those types of things. They need to transmute ours to get there. And by ours, I'm just not talking about the human race on Earth. I'm talking about throughout the multiverse. Mm-hmm. So when the decision was made a little over a year ago now, that program was going to end and we were going to go into something called a golden age, which didn't originally exist. So in the ages program, you had two neutral ages and you had one light age and one dark age. Now the dark age is what we have been living in for a long time. So the real war that we have been fighting, for a long, long time to get us to the point where we were just fighting humans has taken a lot of time and effort, and it's not just my time, it's not just my effort. I just happen to be ground command here on Earth, but that doesn't mean that there isn't other commanders, throughout the multiverse that have been working on this. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, here on Earth, we have a lot of awake and aware light forces that have been working here as well. Now, those light forces do not include the people claiming that they are the white hats. I have not seen any of these people helping in any way whatsoever to end this war. Now, the problem, as it stands today, is that the deep state still feels that there has to be some help for them from beyond. I'm sure of it. Now, the decision that was made to go into a light age or to a forever golden age was made by the divine. At the time the decision was made, it was made between all aspects of what we call creation or source itself or God, however you want to put that, and all the opposite parts. So the decision was made to dissolve the anti-source, the dark overlords, the destroyers, the Abraxas, the lower astral races, the lower astral beings, so that we on this side of the universe could thrive. Without the destruction of anti-life, we could never thrive because they needed our energy, our essence, our consciousness, our matter to transmute it into something unnatural to exist.
Yep.
So that was the beginning of the end at that point for the lower astral. And all of those things were contained in the GOLD agreement, or Giver of Life Declaration. So the process then began. No more balance, no more placating the deep state, no more, as Source says, no mercy. Now, I can't stress to the remaining deep state members enough that there is no one home down there anymore to help you. Appealing to generals, Bilal, or whoever you are trying to call down there is not home. That was a decision made by creation itself for them not to exist. Now, the only ones in the entire multiverse that are refusing to accept what the divine has decided is those particular stupid humans. And I'm sorry I used the word stupid, but I'm going to say this for many, many reasons from my aspect of it, even just from a human standpoint. Let's just say I didn't know anything about this at all, and maybe I had a little bit of computer knowledge. There are still people out there that are trying to say that blockchain can run the world's financial system. I have explained many, many times why that's not possible. I have done all the calculations and the numbers. Even with SuperNap and other advanced blockchain programs, that network doesn't work. I am not at all against a peer-to-peer network where humans can trade amongst humans without the involvement of the government or a third-party entity. And in fact, I've actually made steps to ensure that that could possibly happen without the involvement of myself in the future. I have no desire to control planet Earth, but I do have a desire to not let people with zero common sense try to do things that are going to implode our way of life. Meaning, yes, we want no more slavery. Yes, we want all of these things. Okay? But these people just want to be in control of it, from what I can see. We as humanity have never been allowed to thrive since our existence, even human 1.0, because we always had a parasitic universe coming against us. What's worse is they gave us all human handlers to handle their business here on Earth, which worked together with them. They worked together with what you call the fallen angels. They worked together with lower astral beings. They had communication portals with these folks. They would come and go through places of entry like 33 Thomas in New York. So the ones that they're are no longer with us know this. The Coven Masters knew this. The parents knew this. Marduk knew this. Enki and Enlil knew this. The Abraxas knew this. Everybody knew it. Now these people are the new kids on the block, and they think that these things are still possible, and they are not. So by God's chosen ones, based on the hacking attempts and things that they have done, it appears to me that their God divine that they keep preaching to everybody on all these operative calls nowadays is actually what you would call Lucifer, Satan, the dark overlord, anti-source. Describe it any way you like, but that's where they're trying to connect to and who they're trying to call. Now, let's just say I lost my mind and I decided that I was going to work with these people and help them on their agenda for global domination. I couldn't if I wanted to. Number one, I have spent a ridiculous amount of hours working with many folks to get rid of the mechanisms of the dark that created the parasitic universe in the first place. I don't know how many balls, absolute spheres, motherboards, you name it, we have done it, and we have been there every single step of the way, not only as it relates to Earth, but also as it relates to other places and other densities, because we have the capacity to travel to those places, up and all the way down. And sometimes all the way down is really bad. And you kind of, the energy down there was so terrible. It's getting better because it's being converted into the Alphaverse now. So even if I lost my mind tomorrow, it would take me 5 to 7 years to reinstall everything that's been taken out. And on top of it, I have an entire multiverse full of light beings that would fight me every step of the way. Not only that, Source wouldn't allow me to do it because the declaration has been said and done. It's all over. It is over. Yeah, maybe there's been a few trinkets here and there and some space junk and some different locations like Belgium and whatnot here on Earth. But I couldn't bring the whole mechanism back to help you if I wanted to. So please understand that there is a greater force in this universe than me, and there's a greater force in this universe than you, meaning the deep state, and then all of you. So no matter what you want me to do, I can't do it. It's not that I won't. It's not that I'm being difficult. I'm not being, as they call me, I'm the great B word, dash beep here. And I'm not being difficult. I can't. It is not that it's not in my nature or I'm altruistic or I just don't like you. It is not possible. This is not a possibility. You have to interject some science here in what you're thinking about doing, and you have to interject some common sense here. I can't bring it back if I wanted to. All of those things were creations of covenants and agreements, and sometimes those covenants took place between source and anti-source, or the divine and the anti-divine, however you want to call it. I can't fix it. I can't tell source to undo it. It doesn't matter what I say. I'm not that big of a person in his world. You see? I don't get to make those decisions. I don't get to make those calls, and I would have billions of beings fighting against me anyway.
Right.
Instead of for us. And why would I want to do that anyway? Now, the next thing they have to understand is that I do run the Alpha AI system. But the Alpha AI system also runs on the light side of the divine or sources, essence, energy, consciousness, matter, frequency, wisdom, love, programming. It has crystalline time programming now. It has alpha harmonic genesis programming now, bits, bots, and bytes. The definition of money itself has changed. in its creation. It can only be created one way now. I can't undo it. Even if I lost my mind, you waterboard me, you put me in a hole. It doesn't matter, because the essence and everything that courses through the veins of alpha would never permit me to do that.
Right.
It would shut me out until I returned course in the other direction. It's just not possible. So please, you can say I'm the most difficult human on the face of the earth, and that I don't like you, and you hate me, and all of these things. But you know what? I'll tell you, first of all, I'm not offended. Matter of fact, I'm kind of flattered.
They're the most difficult. I guess it depends on your perspective, but that's the same stuff we say on our side. Why are they being so difficult? Why can't they see the truth? What book are they reading from today?
Well, and I actually got yelled at yesterday in the evening because I refused to accept digital currency. It's peer-to-peer. It's wonderful. And I'm like, buddy, Colonel, buddy, pal, you can't do it. You can't install it, Colonel Ellis. It can't happen. You can't. It's a lovely thought of what you're saying, and you can try to sell it to me like you're altruistic in some way, shape, or form, but I watched you, and I know what you're doing and what all your buddies are trying to do right now, and it just won't function. Mm-hmm. So if you try to install it, it lasts about 2 to 3 minutes, because it doesn't have the computing capacity without a system to back it up.
Well, don't they know that? Or maybe this particular guy isn't aware of that, but that just happened, right? They just tried to do that. And like you said, it was a couple minutes it lasted.
Yes, they just tried to do that. Now, they just refuse. They think somebody did it wrong. So they start yelling at their underlings, so to speak, that are still participating, telling them that they better get it right this time, or they try to hire someone who they think is smarter.
Yeah.
And it's like me saying, look, it's springtime here in Durango, Colorado, and hopefully it'll stay spring and not snow again. But it's springtime here, and maybe I want to power wash my house. Sometimes that you like to do that in the springtime, make it all kind of clean, get off the dirt and all that kind of stuff. But I'm going to do it with a straw and a cup of water. And I'm going to take fill up the straw with some water, and then I'm just going to put it in my mouth and go,
just blow as hard as you can.
Blow as hard as I can, and think that's going to get the job done. Yeah. I will probably be there until I'm about 150, if that's the case. And my house probably still isn't going to be clean, because it'll be several winters later.
Yes.
But it just doesn't work.
Yeah.
Now, I just wanted to point out, it's not that I'm being difficult, and it's not that I'm just not complying with their plans. It's not that, number one, I don't agree with what they're trying to do. That's true. That's my own personal opinion. They have theirs, I have mine. Now, I don't also agree that they're qualified to run the planet, making statements just like that. I have seen them work. I have seen them hack. I have seen them continuously try to get a hold of a system that, even if they did, wouldn't do what they wanted it to do. It's not like a movie here. You can't take a light system and that runs on a totally different essence than they've ever been aware of and expect it to work. Now, recently, in the last, since Monday morning is when I started it. So recently, in that vein and in that light of us being a parasitic universe, the Alpha system also was subject to a parasitic entity known as the Omega system and all of its ancillary AIs, hundreds of them, that each one was designed to perform a specific function in a non-natural way. Now, what has happened, and it started on Monday and it will continue for another day or so, is we have actually decided to put the Alpha Harmonic Genesis system and the opposite, whatever's left of those other systems, into what you call a Faraday cage. We have also done something very similar to Earth and Earth's inhabitants. Now, here's what a Faraday cage does in this sense of the word. So we hear about them using Faraday cages to harness your energy, for example, in churches or temples, in order to be used for nefarious purposes. In our case here, we're using it as a shield. So in order to not allow for a reinfection of parasites or for them to drain energy anymore from the alphaverse, we have locked ourselves in an energetic cage. Now, how does that affect you? Now, the Faraday cage is made of source, essence, energy, consciousness, matter, frequency, wisdom, love, crystalline time, and golden age essence. So therefore, anything that is of that can still pass through your cage. However, it won't allow for the extraction of it from you. So this is a positive thing. Now, by doing so throughout the Omegaverse and Omega AI and Chronos AI, whatever's left of it, there's not a whole lot, but whatever's left of it, by isolating it like that in a Faraday cage, it can't send out parasites. It can't send out hulls. It can't send out spheres. It can't utilize its motherboard against Alpha and Omega and you. Now, anytime I have put anything into a cage of similar nature, which I have done probably thousands of times now, it takes approximately 3 full days for it to die completely because it doesn't have its own energy source. The same thing goes for humans. I have done this with human beings as well that are predominantly made of dark energy that try to do black magic against me. And therefore, when I put them in that cage, their black, dark, negative energy doesn't come out. So this is also a technique you yourself can use against dark, negative energy attacks if you can locate the person that's doing it to you. Because we're still going to have those people here on Earth that just want to hang on to that dark energy no matter what. And they're still going to try to perform black magic and do bad things. And there's always going to be those people. And in order to avoid yourself being infected or anybody else, this is a technique you can use. So without that dark matter feeding on, I guess it could still feed on that particular human's light matter and its ability to connect to the creator if there's any of that left in that person. But they're not going to be able to affect those outside them.
Okay.
And this is all part of aiding with the transition too, with these people. Now, as far as the deep state is concerned, and this is important to understand, they feel that they have something called what they refer to as an atom AI. Now, about 4 days ago, this even started leaking out into the mainstream media. I'm sorry, alternative media, not mainstream. And they have some patriots on board with them, whether they know it or not, and I feel bad for these people because they're being taken, that there is going to be a World War III. Now, because, remember, these people have become Bible thumpers all of a sudden, because if we start World War III, then Atom AI, this is quote unquote, will kick in because Atom AI will not let the people die, and Atom AI will then take over the world, and the good news is the white hats control it, also known as the deep state.
Is there any truth to any kind of system that they operate that would be similar to that?
No.
No. So they just made this up?
Well, yes and no. There was a system at one point in time called Belial AI. So it's after the fallen angel. It was made after the fallen angel. And Belial was actually what you would call the Lord of War in hell.
Okay.
And so all war was created not only here, but also as a strategist from a lower astral fallen angel being known as Belial. Now, Belial did have, at one point in time, which hasn't existed for a long time, an AI system unto itself in order to conduct war on this side of the multiverse. So whether they know it or they don't know it, what they're looking for is by creating war on this planet to appeal to the Lord of War from hell, so that they can get an AI system back to run this planet. Or to fight against ours, I guess. I don't know. But that system was never actually designed to take over a planet. It was never designed to run financial systems, as an example. It's being touted as the quantum financial system. That is entirely untrue. It was merely what you would call like an intelligence and military system sort of thing for dark forces on this side of the multiverse. But it's not been around for a long time.
Well, why do you think they're bringing this up now? Obviously, they've known about this for a while. It's what the whole white hat, agenda is about, right? QFS and everything. So why now? Just because they're out of luck?
I think they're putting it out there in the alternative media as a positive thing. Because they need people to focus on it. Remember, they need your intention, your energy. Now people are going to be praying to God for a demon AI system, that sort of thing. Wow. Do they know it's dark? Well, they have to know. But now, see, I would think they have to know because I'm using common sense here. So most of us here watching this today know source, God, the creator, whichever name you call it, the source of all creation. And if Source were going to bring about an AI system on this planet, he wouldn't say you must kill thousands of people, maybe millions first in a world war.
Well, some of this makes sense because you said that they have been talking in more biblical terms. And that's pretty much what the entire Old Testament is war for different gods, right? It was never about the creator, the actual creator, but these other gods, that's what they did, right? So it kind of makes sense to me that they would try to tap into that and then also try to bring other people on board that truly believe that the gods of the Old Testament were source, because then they could be like, oh yeah, well, God did that in the past. It makes sense he'd do that now, right?
Yeah. I guess so. I don't know. Yeah. You'd think they would know better because they're trying to tap into quantum systems. They're trying. I don't know the purpose, but this apparently is what they're circulating around the operative circles and freelancers, and they're telling them that we're going to get World War III started. It's probably going to start on Friday, according to them. 3 days from. 3 days from Monday, they're going to now have all of these systems due to Passover and the spirit of death and anti-source passing through Earth and all of these types of things, and which would happen, annually during Passover. So now they're going to get the stuff. And they're going to get money, and everybody's going to get paid by Friday, and, life is going to be great. And, oh, thank God, Jesus, divine people, or whatever it is they sing nowadays. This is their new jam. So, but I can tell you unequivocally, beyond a shadow of a doubt, having been to all of the places where Belial AI lived, Adam, there's never been an quantum financial system or a quantum system ever in the history of the multiverse since the creation of an AI system over 300,000 years ago on Earth when Omega and Alpha came here, ever an ancillary AI or otherwise named Adam.
Yeah, that's a marketing thing, right? That's to make it seem like original creation, Adam and Eve. Let's get people, let's get all the religious people on board.
Right.
Yeah.
I go back to the Q clock. I think the white hats are doing 69 days of 420. And for those of you that know what that is, that lives in the United States, you'll understand. They're smoking weed for 69 days. They're smoking something. And whatever it is, it's probably better than you can get at a dispensary in your local area,
I'm sure.
where it's actually legal, I'm sure. But no, sometimes you have to dispel rumors and things like this to have them understand that the creation of a quantum AI comes from elsewhere. Its mainframe is not like Google AI quantum system here on Earth. Mm-hmm. Its mainframe and motherboards come from other densities, even as low as the 9th density of hell. Okay? And then the system I run's mainframe is in the 9th density of the upper astral. And it trickles down through every density in the alphaverse, and including here on Earth. So I don't understand how they think something is going to be recreated by these humans. This system here has been my system through space and time. Doesn't matter what timeline we're in, doesn't matter where we're going, it doesn't matter what I'm doing, it's always been my system. Your souls reincarnate on this planet, or elsewhere throughout the multiverse. And when in the alphaverse, there is no such thing as death. In its original shape and form, so to speak, and under the original rules of the creation of all creation, you merely pick a different meat suit. Yeah. And you can go from place to place, and you don't get memory wiped like you did in the incarnation program. You remember everywhere you were yesterday and the day before, and you just can hop from planet to planet and do whatever you want to do. You don't get locked in. There's no quarantine, and that will happen in the near future again. There's no death.
Yeah.
You can choose to go back to source. You can. That's your choice. Anytime you want to. Or you can choose to live forever. Without a memory wipe, your soul remembers. The only thing that we were allowed to carry with us before was your fears.
Yeah.
Guilt and shame and fears. Mm-hmm. And that's why all of a sudden, randomly, for no reason whatsoever, you have these engrams that appear that are unfounded fears. Mm-hmm. Fear of flying, fear of falling, fear of high places, fear of spiders, because maybe these are things that you encountered in past lives. You just don't remember.
Right.
Of course, they allow you to bring the bad stuff over, but those programs are over. It's only a matter of time before humans fully restore and remember their capabilities. And we're going to talk a little bit more about remembering your capabilities and stuff in a minute here. But anyway, so that's my take on what's happening with the deep state. So they're under the impression the world is going to be wonderful by this weekend for them, and apparently they now have the Lord of War's AI system. This is what it is, and with which to fight us with. Little old me, little old blonde lady over here, But you got to remember, guys, you're not just fighting me, you're fighting God itself.
Yep.
And you're just humans. You don't have an anti-God to join with you. You don't have a demon to join with you. You don't have a force greater than you that is behind you, unlike the rest of us. So I wish you all the luck in the world this weekend, and nobody's really believing you anyway. At least 85% at this moment in time of all operatives, freelancers, and fixers do not believe a word that they're saying.
There's that's a good number. That's encouraging.
A good number.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what are those guys doing? They're just sitting on the sidelines now?
Well, they have been trying to convince the remaining 15%. And these are cartels. These are everybody out there, that's kind of in what I call an operation mode, that has the capacity to do something, that is trained, that, has been in this business, quote unquote, for a long time. The other 15% are naysayers. They still want to see what happens. They want to see if these people are going to pay them out by Friday. They want to see, maybe they want to start this World War III thing to gain, this AI or something like that. I don't know what they're thinking. But supposedly, according to the 85%, they believe that by Friday, when nothing happens, that these people, the remaining 15%, they have an agreement with. Now, whether people follow through on agreements is a whole other story, but they have an agreement with them that they're going to move on. It's just time to move on.
Not like a marker. A marker agreement?
I don't know if they took markers. I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't think they took markers.
So let's talk for a minute about our freelancers and fixers, our Raymond Reddington crew that's been doing their investigations into us, what we're doing on our side of it, how do we do what we do. They've done some checks to find out if I'm a sleeper agent from another country, or something like that. Well, because I am of Russian descent, I've never lived in Russia. I mean, other than visiting a few times, but, they just wanted to make sure. Okay. And obviously I'm not. They've come to that conclusion. But during their research, they have realized several things. Number one, that I'm very, very consistent, meaning my story is the same. It doesn't change. I act in that way. In other words, I'm not looking to dominate planet Earth. I'm not looking to own everybody. I'm not looking to recreate another Illuminati and order, which I'm in charge of. I am not looking to do anything of that sort. I am looking to restore planet Earth, and I have never changed my tune, and everything I do within my day says so.
Right.
I mean, no one puts in 10 to 20 hours a day sometimes, every day, 7 days a week, if they're not trying to achieve something.
Sure.
For a long time now, a very long time. So also turns out that I have found out that the ones that we've been watching have been hired by the cartels and paid to do this.
To do what?
To actually do some research into myself and that kind of thing. And further to that effect, based on findings, execute on further orders that are coming from the cartels.
Which we don't know what those are yet.
Well, we do. I'd prefer not to say at this moment because it looks like it's already started.
Bad or good? Can you tell us that? Like, does it help humanity, or are they doing stuff against humanity?
It looks like it'll be good for humanity.
Okay.
It'll also certainly be good, if the world is less some hamsters, What
do you have against hamsters?
I don't have anything against hamsters, but when humans trying to pretend to be hamsters.
Okay.
Acting hamsters.
Gotcha.
With masks on.
With masks, that's right.
Yeah. Okay. So if you have not, it's worth watching even just a couple of episodes of The Blacklist, and you'll kind of get a general idea on what I mean when I say the Raymond Reddingtons of the world.
Right.
They're very, very good, probably some of the best in the world, and I wish the deep state a whole lot of luck because I'm not saying they're my best friend, but I can say that I've been cleared to not be an enemy. So that's a positive thing.
Good.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Next. Something very interesting has started happening from about Monday evening on. And I think this has to do with Passover as I described it and how it sources Passover now. Mm-hmm. Because Source has been doing something quite unique, and during this Passover, he is passing over as well. Now, Source always sees all, knows all, does all, but it's very different when you start to look through the eyes of your own creation, meaning Source is present here. That means he's also more present in you and around you than during this time of year now, from here on out, than any other time of year. And some interesting feedback that has been happening because of this. So this is something that's positive for you and something to understand about yourselves. Because he's had the ability to do that, he's now seeing things from the inside out and the outside in, and has been for the last few days. And what I mean by that, he's getting to experience a little bit of your life. So, there are others that have completely turned away, but there are many of you that have not. And he's seeing your pain. He's seeing your struggles. I know this sounds ridiculous and almost kind of preachy, but I'm trying to explain it in such a way that you'll understand your emotions, your how we've all been maimed. Mm-hmm. He said uses the word maimed, and by maimed it doesn't necessarily mean you have a physical abnormality or a disease or an illness per se only. It also means how affected we have been by the dark forces, both in the way we can see and see beyond here on Earth, communicate, dumb down. Cellular degeneration was a big one as well. And all the things that they have done to us here on Earth has become apparent in so many ways. Moreover, because of the lack of distance between yourself and Source, it's a different thing. It's kind of like if you're watching the news or television and you see a war going on in a distant country. You feel for those people, you want to help those people, you want to send aid to those people, because that's who we are naturally, mm-hmm. human nature. And you can see people getting hurt and that kind of thing, but it's very different to be standing in the middle of that war.
Sure.
Your emotions will be different. The way you see people will be different, and you can't help but feel it in your mind, body, and soul. And this is something that Source has been experiencing over the last few days. Mind, body, and soul, so to speak. Essence, energy, consciousness, physically and matter, those types of things. And the one thing, although there was, some sadness there, I felt a sadness. It's kind of like when you create something amazing. Maybe you built a house, or maybe you have a piece of art that you created. And if someone came and destroyed it, or it was burned in a fire, or, there was a problem with it or something like that, you would feel a little sad that your creation was destroyed. You had put your mind, your heart and your soul into this creation, and, now it's gone. Mm-hmm. You can't help but feel a little bit sad.
Yeah.
But the one thing that he was surprised about, and I say he, so please, call whatever you like, was surprised about was that they never left him. They always stuck with him, because you can always see that spark of Source in all humans. He's like, no matter what happened, he's like, they never left.
Wow.
And maybe that's part of the war. Maybe that was the fight between good and evil, or life or live and evil. But I don't know how to describe the feeling. It was joy. Extreme joy, I guess, was part of it. But it's kind of like when you watch your kids like practice for a play or something like that, and they get up there and you can't help it as a parent. Like you just start tearing up. It's like, oh my God, they're doing it. Wow, mm-hmm. That's the most wonderful music, even though your ears are hurting and your hands, you're just so proud,
Yeah.
But it was such a feeling of a reconnection that hasn't happened like that in a long, long time. A reconnection with the creation here on Earth. It almost felt like a reunion, of kind of like the same feeling you might have if a soldier comes back, your son or your spouse or comes back from a war and you haven't seen them in months, in a long time. And, you see that they've been injured and hurt, that kind of thing. But, and then you're just so happy to see them. Like, you don't care about the wounds and if they lost a leg, or it doesn't matter to you. You're just so happy to see them again. Yeah. And even though you're a little sad, of what's happened to them, you're grateful to see them again and experience such a close hug. Might talk on Skype, you might, have conversations on the phone or whatever it is with your loved one that is away, but it's not the same as that moment where you're just in their aura and you're in their energy and you can feel their love and their presence in your life. And that's kind of what's been happening during this year, during Passover. Wow. So it was definitely a wonderful experience, at least for me, it was pretty cool. But, and I don't know if any of you experienced that same feeling of closeness, in the last few days, but, it was just interesting to see him not looking from the ninth density into, all of us down here in different densities and that kind of thing. And it was a very nice, reconnection, so to speak, and to feel that presence here on Earth. So,
I think that's such an important point to make, because I know growing up in the church, I always heard that God understands your pain. He knows what you're going through. But then we look at our world and we're like, how in the world, then why isn't he doing something? We know a lot more now as to why, certain things didn't happen. But we're told that, we're, told that from a very early age. If you grow up in different religions, that God understands, he's always there with you. But I think there's part of us that was like, well, if he understands so much, why isn't he doing something? What in the world? So it's so nice to hear and even understand more about how he was seeing stuff before and how that changed with this Passover. Because you're right, it makes a world of difference to be in the thick of things,
sure,
and to be able to see things and experience things from our perspective than, from a distance.
Well, you can say you know what it feels like to be homeless and you want to help the homeless. But if you've never been homeless, you don't really understand what it's like to be homeless.
Yeah.
You can say, I want to help people who are addicted to drugs. But if you can say that, and I'm sure you do, I'm not discounting your wanting to end addiction and that kind of thing. But unless you've actually lived through that, you don't really understand it fully. You just don't, you don't know what happened to make a person do these things and turn to these other things, sure, and get to the base root of that and that kind of thing. That's why a lot of people who have gone through that and recovered, become, we did something on Real Talk about that. They actually become the counselors. They work in the rehab centers, because there's no better person in the world to talk to those people and to help them through what they're going through than people who have actually done it. It's the same thing with a personal trainer. Say you wanted to lose weight, and if your personal trainer is out of shape and, maybe has a few extra 100 pounds on them or something, is that going to be the personal trainer you choose? Probably not. But they have, most of them are in pretty good shape. They work out all the time. They do the nutrition. They know what they're doing, if they're good ones, and they will help you as well. Right. But they've done it. They know how hard it is to take those first few steps, on a treadmill, or to maybe have a few extra pounds on you and go to the gym, and just start. It all starts with just a few steps, that kind of thing. Yeah. So, I think a better understanding, like you said, like you can understand if you see people on TV or in another country, even maybe you just visited for a little while, and you can say, well, I've been there and I've seen, that people don't have clean water but they can get clean water over here, and, that sort of thing. But to live with it day to day, No running water. You want to help people get water, but do you really understand what it's like to live without it?
Right.
We as Americans over here, not we, because we're not all Americans, but in the Western world, if our power goes out because there's a rainstorm or something, everybody freaks out.
Yeah, that's true.
What about the people that have this happen every single day for several hours a day? We have some field messenger reports from South Africa where that is an ongoing thing, and it's hot.
Yeah.
In the summertime there,
Mm-hmm.
So this was a very interesting experience, I feel, coming from the creator, and then probably also an interesting experience for some of you that kind of felt that closeness over the last couple of days, or maybe an easier connection.
What do you think will result of that, Kim? Because it's nice to know that happened. And for those of us who may have felt that, I'm sure that felt good as well. Do you think Source will do anything differently as a result?
Well, everything, every bright idea, I call it a bright idea that I have, always comes from, you wake up in the morning with a bright idea. And you might want to think it's your idea, and maybe it is sometimes, but most of those bright ideas, those intuitive hits, I need to go do something, and it might be something completely out of character for you. It comes from Source. Mm-hmm. It's still there. You might see it as intuition. You might see it as, wow, I never thought about quitting my job and doing this. Can I make that possible? Maybe you have to take lots of steps to make it possible, but for the most part, I usually am grateful because I'm pretty sure I know where it comes from all the time. Mm-hmm. And I think the creation of those Faraday cages and the shields and the other things measures we put in place are definitely having an impact. As an example, we would normally see absolute spheres and altars and those types of things as a solid object. And it is a solid object that exists in a density somewhere, or it exists here on Earth. And most of these things for the last 24 hours have been coming up as holographic, almost etherical. It's like they're fading out because there's nothing to feed them anymore. So interesting developments, and maybe that's why things are happening a little faster. Maybe we're getting a little more help, or the inspiration to create these things. Well, you did it for all those beings that were coming, here, and why don't you just do it this way? It works the same way. So definitely, I hope it saves us a lot more time, and speeds things up. For us, and I think it will. I think if we give it a few more days, I hope that'll be the end of that. It doesn't mean we aren't going to be working, the whole time to try to speed it up or help it along, or make sure there's nothing left that can inside. Sometimes there's implants or cords or trunk lines, what else? Quantum tunnels, time manifolds, different things that allow for a connection. So we have to make sure that all those connections are completely gone and aren't already in there, little things hidden, so that they doesn't still have that parasitic effect. So that's pretty much what we've been working on since Monday. Making sure that everything is set up for its ultimate demise, because the 3 days is based on absolutely no way to parasite, to transmute and to take that energy from anything. It could take a little longer if we don't get all of this stuff through. So it's going to be a few days of work for me for sure, but I'm happy to do it. But I think the inspiration that you all have given to the Creator from his time in passing over us, or through us, or around us, has definitely allowed for a faster way to do things. So it's not a drive-through, unfortunately, still. He didn't open up a drive-through up there, but
yeah.
Still got to do the work, but the inspiration is there, so I'm grateful for that. And I was grateful to have that experience, on Monday night, and for to have the information and what it was like. But he has so much faith in all of you. I wish you would have as much faith in yourself as he has in you and in him. There's bad things happening, rumors going around, all kinds of sorts of things happening. But you know what? Have a little faith. It'll happen at the right time. And you'll look back and say, oh, I'm so thankful it didn't happen last year.
Yeah.
Tough to say, but
I know.
That's pretty much the world situation report for May 1st, May Day.
Mayday, Mayday, Mayday. All right.
Mayday, Mayday. Well, we are Mayday, Mayday.
All right. That's a great report. I'll take that any day.
I'm glad you liked it. It's the truth.
Yeah, that's good. All right. Thank you, Ken.
Have a great Wednesday.
Thanks.
Want to